Uh-uh. No, that's not very Delta. I love emojis. I use emojis for every conversation, for every Instagram post, TikTok post. I use them in emails, sometimes in professional emails, even though they're not terribly professional. I'm still going to use them. I do not understand this far into emoji updates why there are so many emojis that exist that no one's using. And there's so many emojis that do not exist that people, I think, especially in my field of work, would absolutely use all the time. For instance, I have been complaining for years and years and years that there is not a perfume bottle emoji, just a little perfume bottle. It could have a tassel. It could be just something that looks like the atomizer is spraying. We do not have a perfume bottle. People buy perfume as gifts. People talk about how a room smelled. People will talk about something that they just bought, a fragrance that they just bought. I would always use that emoji. I would say, look at this new perfume I bought, spray. Look at this gift I think I'm going to buy for someone, spray. Doesn't exist. I also do hairdressing and wig dressing for myself and for other people. There is not a hairspray can. Why is there not a hairspray can? Why is there not a hairbrush? Why is there not a hair pick? Why is there not a blow dryer? None of those exist. People comb their hair. People spray their hair. I don't understand why these don't exist, but there are emojis that do exist that nobody is using. Who is using an orange diamond? Who is just using an orange diamond figure? I'm not talking about like a yield sign. I'm not talking about like I'm mistaking this for a piece of fruit. Like this is an actual, just straight up solid diamond shape in primary orange. But what's better? There's another size of that as well. You know what else there is? There's 1, 2, 3. There's probably about 8 different versions of a black square. Just a square. Some have a white outline. Some are solid. Some look like they're sort of radiating. It's not like an airplane black box. Like maybe that would be more interesting and useful in a conversation on the news. Did you see the story about the plane crash? They found the black box. But I don't think we need like 8 versions of that. We also don't need a jillion versions of a clock that says like 1:20. Noon, like just shadows of clocks. Like why? I don't understand what's happening at those specific times. Maybe a noon that's also midnight. Maybe a 4:20. Like that would make sense for people. But like, I almost think there's like 10:20 a.m. or 10:30. I think that one, like, that's not going to be exciting to put into like an Instagram post or in some sort of an email to somebody. Like, I don't need to remind them with a picture of 10:20. They can just say like 20 minutes after 10. Like you can just say that. Like that's absolutely fine. I did recently see kidney beans are kind of new, and I guess they can only have one kind of bean. So the kidney beans are representing for like pinto beans or representing for black beans. You can tell they're kidney beans. Maybe somebody will use that if they're building a salad or talking about making chili. So at first I thought that one was kind of unusual, but I can see where people would use it and why people would use it. There is another one that I think just straight up only suggests one thing. And it's 2 people, 2 figures. One looks like they're sort of leaning on the other one in gray, like a gray scale, sort of anonymous. And I think that's the anonymous sex emoji. I think that's all you could use that for, is to like pop it into it like a text message. Guess what happened last night? Anonymous sex emoji. And you can tell people like that's where I was. There's also such a need for an emoji that looks like the forest. There's mountains, there's an ocean, there's campsites, but there's not actual what looks like several trees over the other. I constantly will send someone a message when it's taking me forever to get somewhere or I'm stuck in traffic, and I'll say, bitch, over the hill and through the woods. That's where I am right now. I need the woods. So I can put that in there. So it can give people the visual, like, you really went through it, But I can't just put a mountain. I'm not really in the mountains. I'm in like a forest. Why is there not a forest with like two, or it could be the same tree, just like evergreen and then spruce colored and then like light green towards the front or something. Where are the emojis that people are actually going to use? What if you're going to the hairdresser or you're telling someone, I'm going to go get my hair done. Don't you want to put a hairspray can? Or if you're shopping at Target, hey, can you pick up some hairspray? No, I'm the only person that needs these emojis. There has to be other people. There was a moment years ago where they had like a man whoever it was, someone who presented as male, levitating over a black hole on the ground. And they suggested that it was inspired by an album cover or something. If we're going to be inspired by album covers, give me something that's like more interesting. Give me like the Squirrel Nut Zippers Perennial Favorites album cover that's like seed packets. I don't see a seed packet. Where is that one? That's more interesting than a man hovering over a hole. And a lot of people say they don't use the hole emoji. I use the hole emoji a lot. So that one can stay. I would rather see more versions of a hole. I would rather see like a black hole with a pile of dirt and a shovel next to it, because you might want to message somebody like, guess who got dug out last night? Maybe you want to message that to someone. You can't just put a hole. That doesn't, I mean, you can say like, ooh, it smells like a dirty hole in here, and you can post that. That's fine. But what about the option of getting dug out? Where's that? Where's that emoji? I don't know what else you would put for that. I guess a shovel, dug, and then I think there's an emoji that might say out. So you could put like a shovel and the out. But you could fix all of that and make it a lot more interesting when you're scrolling through Instagram and you're like, oh, somebody got dug out. I can see right here. This is like a hole with the dirt, the mud, and the shovel. This went in there and dug it out. Doug Party of One. There is an emoji. I still don't understand exactly what it means. Again, my mind goes to the gutter, and that's fine. It's a building that just says 24 hours on it. And I don't know if that's just to say to people like, I was at a 24-hour random place. Not a lot of places that, are 24 hours other than certain gyms, maybe the bathhouse, a donut shop, Denny's, I guess a police station maybe. But like, what is the anonymous 24-hour building? I'm curious to know what happens there. Is it an all-purpose building? Is it a bank that's 24 hours? Maybe you like slide your card and you go inside that little like area so you can't be bothered by someone who is not a customer at that bank. I don't know. I'm curious about 24-hour building. What does that mean? Who's going there and what are they doing there? I'm so lost. There are what I believe to be 2 different candles that you can choose from. There's a very simple sort of like 6 or 9 inch white pillar candle that looks like there's little droplets, something you would just have burning, I don't know, on an end table, scented maybe. That's nice. But then there's also another one that's like an artisanal candle, and it looks like it's hand poured and it's sort of sitting in like a shell, and the wick is kind of moved to the side. So it looks like this is like hand done, homegrown. I make my own candles. I think there are a lot more hairdressers in the world and a lot more customers that get their hair done that are begging for a hairspray can, a paddle brush, a pick. I think there's more of those people than people who make candles and need an artisanal candle emoji. I don't say they don't deserve it. I'm saying, can we at least get rid of the 2 orange diamonds and reward the artisanal candle people with what they already have, so they don't need a third one. But I'd rather them have a third one than 8 black boxes. But we can get rid of at least a black box and an orange triangle. If we got rid of those 2, we could really, really make some moves with people who want a perfume bottle and a can of hairspray. And I want it to be an aerosol can. I want it to look like what it traditionally is. There's other historical ones in there that still, I guess somebody's going to use. I was around when there were compact discs, and there's a compact disc emoji. I don't know that people are using them very often, other than to maybe laugh about technology. I would maybe have a conversation with someone and say like, "Oh, I was at Kinko's and guess what I saw? An old floppy disk." But like, who's using that in conversation? There's not people from these last couple of generations that are desperately using that in a conversation. Give them a bottle of perfume. And you know what? I think it's time for very Delta emojis. And I say emojis because not just one. I think if we did get the perfume bottle and the hairspray at least, that would cover a couple. But there is another emoji I think we could replace with something that would be very Delta. There is a red high heel. And I own red high heels, but I don't normally wear them. My signature shoe is a lucite mule. There is a mule, so that would be like a shoe that covers here and is backless with a heel, a la Blanche Devereaux kind of shoe. That's very Delta. Why can't we get rid of that chunky sisal mule that they have on there that nobody's using? That's like the emoji people post or send to one another when they're like, oh, shoes. Like when you're talking with your friends and you're like, oh, bitch, look at her shoes, look at her shoes. Like that's the emoji that you would send to somebody in conversation to be like, ew, whose shoe is that? Like I make it look like just a silver, pretty, lucite, simple 4-inch. That is so pretty. That is so elegant. It's simple. It's very Delta. And I feel like other people that are not wearing, like there are people that are going to wear that chunky thing. But it almost reminds me of like a bad version of like a 70s, 80s Candy. Like, do you remember Candy's shoes? Look up Candy's shoes. Those were cute. They were like wooden on the bottom. This is like a knockoff version of that. Like if you got a Barbie at 99-cent store, this is like Candy's mules from 99-cent store. Like it's just something about like the pitch and something about the way the heel goes in. It is not cute. And that is not, nobody's using that. That's certainly not a very Delta shoe. So if we could get a clear lucite mule, I'm going to say like a single stack, maybe 4-inch-ish, cute, simple. That is very Delta to have that. We also need to maybe, not a GIF, but figure out a way for an emoji to move. And if we could get a finger where the fingers are closed like this and it goes, no, that's not very Delta. And I want to see it pivot. I don't want the joints to move other than here. And I want it to go, that's not very Delta. And that'll be the first one in all of those hands and fingers. It'll be the first one that moves. That would be a very Delta, very, very Delta emoji. And, you know, along those lines, if we're going to have a perfume bottle, like a standard perfume bottle, along the lines of a standard candle, and then the artisanal candle people get the artisanal candle, we should get a specialty, very Delta bottle of perfume that is going to be in a beautiful round shape, probably. So you could hold it almost like an apple. And then it's going to have that squeezy little atomizer that's like this with a big tassel. So the tassel will come off and it'll swerve back around and it'll go like these. See how my earrings like flutter? That's how that will flutter on the ends. And you will see it go puff, puff, with every puff. I don't want to say that this one has to move like the finger does. I'll make concession that if only one of them is going to move, we'll make the finger move. But if we're giving out artisanal candles next to the regular, like, you know, Walmart pillar candles, then you can give me a specialty bottle of perfume in addition to the regular bottle of perfume. We need options. Maybe we should even have an aftershave for people who wear aftershave. These are all scent around scent. I think that would be really nice. And nobody knows what a very Delta emoji is more than everyone who's listening and watching this. All of you who support this podcast and understand what happens on this talk show, what we need, what we stand for, what we want, what we desire, what we require, you know this better than everyone. A lot of these are probably blowing past me. I'm not even seeing them, but you are seeing them. And if you can think of them and you know, we need to create a movement. We need to see by the end of this year, them institute some of these things. And we'll know that we have made change for those of us who are really concerned about this stuff. I mean, emojis are there for fun. If they're there for fun, why can't we have fun? Why do we have to have black boxes that mean nothing? If you know what kind are very delta, if you know what very delta emojis we need, put them in the comments. We want to see what some of these emojis should be. Obviously, you can't really post a picture of them, but you could describe them. You could describe what it is we need, whether it's a phrase or it's a moment or it's a sound or it's a feeling. It's definitely going to be a feeling, a sound. I mean, there has to be something out there that I'm missing that you can see in an emoji that we need. Do you want to see me take a break? I think you want to see me take a break.